to provide guides that not only provide victims with information about how they can continue to use technology and not be victimized and protect themselves and protect their privacy, but also guides that are about getting people to think before they share, getting people to think before they act, to really understand the consequences of their behavior. We have also developed technologies inside of Facebook to actually try to create the types of interactions that would prevent people from behaving in this way. So we developed something called social resolution tools. So sometimes there is content that people share that is hard for us to determine from the context around it that it's bullying. And oftentimes people may share a photo that isn't a photo that violates our policy, but is a photo that someone else may not want up there. Maybe they don't like the photo, maybe they don't like the context around the photo. And when that person goes to report that photo to us, in addition to be able to report it for bullying, we also give them the opportunity to reach out to that individual. And in the vast majority of cases, when people do reach out, that individual will take the photo down. So sometimes trying to create technologies that mimic the types of social interactions that we might have, where we might go up to somebody and say, hey, I don't like what you did, really can help protect individuals on the platform. In addition, we found that, for instance, people sometimes find those conversations hard, so we also provide prompts inside of those social resolution tools to enable and facilitate those types of conversations. But it also takes more than that. We work with organizations to provide law enforcement training. I think you spoke very specifically about ensuring that we actually enforce these laws. So we work with law enforcement to help them understand how to report to us, how to reach out to us, how to collect the information that they need to pursue an investigation and prosecute. We also work with an organization called Thorn to help provide them with the types of tools that they need to speed up their investigations. And some of these tools can reduce their investigations by up to 60%. So it takes a multi-pronged, multi-stakeholder approach to really get at these important behaviors. And that's what we've been up to at Facebook.
Thank you so much. I'm Brian O'Connor with Futures Without Violence, as was mentioned before. I really appreciate the diversity of the panel, for one. I've certainly learned as well, and I just want to say what's so important and what I'm going to talk about as far as a couple of programs about how we really get out in front of it, right? And so not just how we're able to work directly with young people and how they're able to influence their peers, but also how we're able to engage and mobilize important adults in the lives of young people to also use their influence as well to get out in front of them. And so, like I said, I really appreciate everything that's been said. And Delaney, thank you so much for being here and continuing your advocacy and some of the work that we've done together as well. I also want to thank Representatives Custer, Meehan, Spear, and Joyce for inviting me to talk. And all of you here as well, because this task force is so important, and it's something that oftentimes is an issue that is so hidden, right? And so getting out there and getting out in front of it and really speaking up, as we are all doing here today, is just so critical. I'm going to talk a bit about a couple of programs. One that's not specifically, say, targeting digital harassment on its face, but what is so important, right, is that digital, online and offline is really an adult paradigm, right? And so, as Representative Spear said as well before, it's just life. So we might not even remember some of the technology, some of our favorite technologies before they even existed. Well, people, I got here. Before they even existed. But, you know, in thinking about our talk today, I was kind of like, all right, well, you know, all of our favorite technologies are teenagers. In fact, one of them is just growing up, might have, you know, just got its braces off. When you think about it, Google is 19, Facebook just did get its braces off, 13, and our iPhones are 10 years old.
Big bank account.
Big bank account. Well, so, you know, we think that they've been here forever, right? And so what would we do without them? But all that's just to say it is just life. And that even if you're over 20 years old, right, how technology is changing and every day, and how also our actions and our behaviors are amplified is something that we all know and what we're discussing here today. and why we're here to talk about it. And we're here to also talk about, our iPhones are 10 years old, right? And so what we're here to also talk about is not just the threats, certainly, and the harassment that we see online, but also some of the positives about technology, and some of the positives about social media, and how we're able to, although the dangers are real, we know that it can be used for good, it can build connections. We get access to a whole host of information. We're also able to create social norms that promote respect and healthy relationships. And particularly for some of the work that we see with That's Not Cool that was mentioned earlier before, a program that works on preventing teen dating abuse and is funded by the Office on Violence Against Women, part of DOJ. Our online properties, platforms oftentimes help the most vulnerable and isolated as well. And so specifically, if you bear with me, I'm going to share a brief video that kind of undergirds the work that we do on a program called Coaching Boys into Men. We work with athletic coaches to talk with their young athletes, particularly male athletic coaches, to facilitate and broach conversations each week across a whole host of different topics. And so Coaching Boys into Men aligns with the fall or winter or spring sports season. So each week, starting with, say, personal responsibility, insulting language, they're facilitating having a conversation with their athletes about this stuff. And oftentimes we hear from some of the athletes that, which is also really illuminating all the time. It's one thing to do new rooms with coaches all the time, but to talk to young people and say, well, you know what, we were just expected to know, right? Nobody talked to me about this. And so I'm going to share with you a brief, just a 30-second spot that really reaches out to and is focused on reaching men to talk to their young males in their life about violence against women being wrong. You're going to hear the audio behind me, and then bear with us that there's no projector, but I think you'll get the point.
Baseball. How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the other corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time did he spend teaching him what not to hit?
Extra points if someone can name the voiceover in that ad. It's Forrest Whitaker. I usually say that beforehand. Now you say, wait, let's play it again, right? And so you go through the vignettes. How much time have we spent teaching him what not to do? Right? All violence against women is wrong. Teach early. And so that's really about being intentional and getting out in front of it, talking to those caring and consistent adults in the lives of young people about the importance of being that person who people can go to, right? And so Coaching Boys and Men was funded by an extensive evaluation was funded by the CDC. In fact, the rape prevention and education grants per state for a number of states used their funding to implement the Coaching Boys and Men program, and particularly some of the outcomes, mostly with Coaching Boys and Men, is around positive bystander behavior, right? So Lynn Delaney's experience, it's people also speaking up, and all of those likes, and where are the other folks? Where are the other opportunities to come out and say, hey, you know what, that's actually not okay. How are we actually also policing ourselves online? As Antigone said, it takes more than just the policies, right? It also takes some of the programming. I'll move on to, from Coaching Boys and Men, week 5, for example, as I talked about the various topics, is digital disrespect. Right? And so that is really embedded in all of the things that are discussed and shared in that program. And I think that's a segue then to talk about That's Not Cool, which really does speak most directly to how we try to end and address online harassment and abuse. Outside, there is an overview of the program here, as you'll see. That's Not Cool. And we've talked a lot about online harassment and abuse. What does that really mean? So in speaking with youth in particular, it's like, really, what are we talking about, right? And so the program endeavors to be really specific. We actually identified, and it's not exhaustive, but we identified 3 infractions that we go to the heart of. And so one is around unwanted and repeated calls or text messages. right? Privacy violations such as breaking into email or social networking accounts, and pressure to send nude or private pictures or videos. As we discussed, being really specific about the behaviors that we might find alarming is really important. And at the heart of the program, and when we talk to many young people around the country, what is kind of raises, when I lose sleep at night is, oh, well, you know what, that happens all the time. So that's okay. The frequency that it happens actually desensitizes us and makes it less important sometimes, right? And so that is also something that is really important, I think, for us to watch out for. I'm going to close in talking about That's Not Cool really quickly and then show a video that really explains the program even better than I can. It used to be a broad national media campaign, and still to some extent it is, right? And so we're working with the Ad Council and the Office on Violence Against Women, right? How we're producing materials that are really intended to kind of move the needle, start more of a public or teen dialogue. And it's graduated, it's evolved, better said, into an on-the-ground teen mobilizing program. Right? How are we making all of our assets and tools and materials? And you know, we're really proud of ourselves. And you go to that'snotcool.com. And there's a whole host of materials and tools there, and they're kind of fancy, right? It's making them meaningful for young people. How can young people then take them, adapt them, use them, customize them, and organize their peers on the ground as well is really important. And so there's an ambassador program where we now have over about 800 ambassadors around the country that get monthly challenges, monthly missions to use some of the assets, but then also create their own. And so it creates this ecosystem of materials for the program that are going in and out. And so with that, I will end with a video before we get into the Q&A. And I thank you so much for your attention and apologize for the folks behind me. So I apologize for you, I apologize to you.
Yeah, so I definitely have friends who have been in abusive relationships. I have one friend in particular who was in a physically abusive relationship, and her boyfriend was very controlling. She wasn't allowed to go outside and go to work, coming home. He would also hit her. It was something that we were aware of, but we didn't really know how to support her. I at least was there to like listen to her. At that point in my life, that's all the support I could offer.
I have a stepsister who's 13 years old, and she had recently got into a relationship. It was really innocent, it was really cute, but recently she showed me that she had a GPS locating her boyfriend at all times. It was extremely shocking to see someone as young as 13 have that type of behavior.
That's Not Cool is a teen dating violence prevention initiative, and we help young people prevent and identify teen dating violence, particularly digital dating abuse.
That's Not Cool, where young people are actively talking about the issue of teen dating violence and what issues we're seeing in our communities.
It was clear to us that we needed to focus in on digital behavior. The more people we talk to, the more we realize that young people are actually developing their relationships online. Those same tools that really help us grow and advance our relationships can open us up to certain vulnerabilities that we really need to address.
So That's Not Cool has many elements as a program. We have resources, tools, games, activities that are there to really help people identify and prevent teen dating abuse. We are a youth leadership program. We have an ambassador program. We have over 800 ambassadors across the country completing missions in their schools and communities to take leadership on this issue. The That's Not Cool Summit brought together 14 teams of young people, youth leaders, and their adult allies from all across the country here to our office in San Francisco. We learned about social media activism, engagement, organizing, and about teen dating abuse. At That's Not Cool, we really believe that young people are going to create the change on this issue.
Because of That's Not Cool, my friends definitely have a better grasp of what a healthy relationship is. This is an amazing resource to have.
Thanks.
Let's give one more big round of applause for all our panelists.